Here is a quick video on using conditions in CQG. Now, what are conditions? Conditions are true false statements that you can visually display anywhere you want in CQG. And as an example here, on my quote spreadsheet, I'm using an RSI low and an RSI high condition. If they are above or below my select threshold, I'm going to get this visually on the chart, like I'm using a square, like it just changed here. And if you look on my chart as well, I'm using arrows. I've got arrows when my RSI level is true. And down here on my RSI itself, I've used a condition to color it when it is true as well. So there's a lot of different ways you can display these conditions. And yes, and so we'll go ahead and get started here. So most of your conditions here are going to be start here under this formula button. Now, if you go to formula, what you can do is if you go ahead and select conditions here, you can go ahead and look for ones that we have already. There's a lot of canned conditions in there, and they're going to give you an idea of like the code here. Like here, we're saying if the RSI is greater than our set threshold, which is a parameter we created. If you come all the way over here on the right-hand side, you're going to see parameter. And we're using period and threshold. And you can create these as well. So if you look here, someone highlighted this, hit setup, and they right-clicked here and they added this parameter here. And if we wanted to do that real quick, just as an example, we can go ahead and go new RSI and it's going to give us a blank threshold like this. If you hit this toolbox button in the lower left-hand corner here, this is going to give you access to a lot of studies and functions and things that might make sense. But what we can do is find that study RSI, and we can find it from our list. You know, I'm just going to hit R, probably jump me down here. It's probably a little quicker, but we can go ahead and find RSI. Where is it? I've got a lot of different studies. Here it is, relative strength indicator. We can go ahead and hit apply. I'm going to go ahead and insert that code here. Now, this is the default hard-coded, right, 14 period. If we were to go under setup, we could change it here. But a lot of people will want a parameter so they can change it directly from the chart. So that's why we go ahead and hit parm, and we hit new. And if we were to type period as an example, and then make it an integer, you can make it a boolean, you know, there's a lot of different settings here as well. So just to keep it simple, we're going to say make this 14 period. We'll hit OK. But now we have to highlight this code here. We have to highlight it, go to setup, right-click under period here, and select period to get that period in there. So now we're using a parameter that we could easily change from our chart. And as to prove that to you, if we were to come here and look at, if we were to right-click here, conditions for marking bar, I've got a bunch of conditions here already, but if we were to go ahead and look at that one, we see that we have the ability to change the period now that we created that parameter. If it was just hard-coded, we would see a quick snapshot of the code that this was hard-coded in there. If we go back to formula, there's a lot of different ways to code things. Like I currently have it, right, as we saw here with that RSI high, right, if it's greater than or equal to this threshold parameter we created, it's going to give us it's going to be true, right? And we're going to see it as an arrow, a box, however we want to display it. But here, if we come here, we could also do cross above. Like I want to say when the RSI, what I could say is the RSI crosses above a set threshold. So I could put threshold right here. I could type threshold like we did before, make a parameter called threshold. Go ahead, and I'm going to hit parm, and I'm going to hit new, and I'm going to hit threshold here. So, and I'm going to say 25. This is an example. So now we have a parameter. We're saying, hey, if the RSI crosses above this threshold, I want a true statement here. So we could hit apply. And what we can do is we can take this as well, and to prove it to ourselves, we can make it a custom study as well. So if I go to custom study, I'm going to hit new, and I'm just going to do this again, RSI, test, and I'm going to paste this code in here. But we do need to create those parameters. So I'm just going to click real quick, hit parameter, hit new, actually delete that. And we will do, just put 5 period, hit OK, and then, oops, I forgot to add the one threshold. So we'll hit new and make it threshold. Now they do have to be spelled exactly the same, if they're lowercase, uppercase, just be warned, you need to be exact. I'll hit OK. So we have an RSI period crosses above this threshold. Now what we can do is we can just go ahead and add that study onto our chart. If we go RSI test, and again, all I did was right click in the black area of the chart here and then went to add study. And if I hit add, time date expression, I must have done something here. Oh, there it goes, cleared up. And we can see if we got threshold. So if we look, we're getting a true false. We just did this as a custom study just to see as an example of giving it a 1. Some people will set an alert on this. They'll go ahead and they'll say add study alert on this alone. You know, this is how they want to display it. This is how they want to get an alert. And they'll go ahead and say if if it's above 1 here, I want to go ahead and double click this action column, and I can say I could have it place an order. I could have it make a sound, pop up a chart. I can even have it send me a text message as well. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm going to hit OK. And we'll leave that there. So again, a lot of different ways to do things. There's a lot of canned conditions. Again, the condition is going to be a true false statement. So what we can do is, if we come back to our chart, I'm just going to go ahead and hit, it looks like the Feb 22s here. It looks like there's not a lot of data there. Let's go ahead and, let's see, look at corn. Okay. So corn is above that RSI high. If we wanted to color this RSI, if you were to right click and say, you're like, oh, I added the RSI, Matt, how do I get that condition there? So go ahead and hit here. Now what I can do is, I already have it defaulted, but typically you would right click directly on that line and go ahead and say conditions for marking RSI. This is where you would find that condition, and you would add it and click the bottom arrow here, add it, and then here's where you would set your parameters, your periods, the high level. There's a lot of different parameters for it. And here I'm just coloring the bar, but I could put a diamond there. If I wanted it to be a diamond above, you'll see how a diamond appeared above. And again, it's a lot of ways on how you want to code it. If you look here, I've got this -1 offset in this code as well. And that code is just saying, hey, I want the bar to close true, because within a live bar, right, it could be true, false many different times. So hopefully that makes sense. Please let us know if you have any questions. I know it's kind of a lot here. I just wanted to make it brief, but let me know if you have any other questions.